Well, hello and welcome people on the internet. Today, we're playing some Holocure, but not in the way that we typically do. I've asked you guys over the past couple of episodes to provide me with some questions, and I do a little bit of an AMA here. I've got some, chores to do around the Hollow House, and so I figured, you know what, you guys have been asking to kind of see a little bit of it. So in the background here, I'm going to be doing just some mining, some gathering. I'm kind of building up, trying to get the next couple levels of prisms. I haven't done a lot of, I think I've only really done like one session of wood cutting and mining. So I really got to get my levels up. I got to mine some of that higher level ore, because right now I only have the first stage and I kind of don't want to like waste a bunch of resources to get one of like the second tier or third tier. I kind of want to just wait till I think it's like the fourth tier, because you always need, I forget which one it is. I think, is it mithril? It's like the blue ore. You need like 60 or 80 for like 3 in a row. So I'm like, well, why don't I just wait until like the fourth prism or whatever the last one is, right? Get that and then get the last couple. We'll probably do a little bit of fishing here too, but other than that, we got a bunch of questions here, so let's go ahead and breeze through some of them. A lot of great questions here. So the first one coming in from EZZ7455 asking, you have cat? I haven't really like pre-screened a lot of these, so I'm wondering if I'm going to get a lot of cat questions. No, unfortunately, I don't have any animals. It pains me. I am very much an animal lover. Unfortunately, where I'm living right now, my landlord does not allow me to, or any of my roommates for that matter, to have pets. When I lived with my parents, though, we always had animals. The most we ever had, we had 2 cats and 3 dogs. And then my brother had like a fish, but I don't really count that. I'm not much of a cat person myself. I am much more of a dog person. I've always grown up with at least a dog in the house. Even when I was at my, not this current apartment that I'm living at, but the house I was living at previously with a friend, we were basically like dog sitting her parents' dog for most of the year. They had a pit bull. She was like the sweetest girl. So even then when I had first moved out, still had a dog in the house, but unfortunately don't have one now. I get to see my parents' dogs, which I, colloquially, I can never say that word, but call my dogs, even though they're, they're not really mine. I still call them mine. We have a golden retriever right now, Finley. He just turned a year old, I think. And then we have Baron, the old Newfoundland. He's like 6 years old, I think. He's like 150 pounds or something. He's a big boy. He's a big old chungus. And then we used to have a Bernese Mountain Dog, and then we had another golden retriever prior to that. And then prior to that, we had a mix. She was a like German Shepherd, Collie, and golden retriever. And those have been my family pets. We currently, my parents still do have 2 cats, a bit older, a Maine Coon, and then something, I don't know, I'm gonna be honest, Maine Coon is like the only, besides like Siamese, or, Siamese cats. I don't really know a lot of cat breeds, but the other cat was my grandfather's before he passed. When my grandmother passed away, my parents got him a cat because he was kind of lonely, and that cat has been alive forever. She's probably close to 20 years old. She's still kicking, and she's very young. But anyway, that kind of that's a bit of a tangent. But anyway, no, I do not have a cat. But I do wish that I could have a dog. If and when I do get a dog, I will probably get another Bernese Mountain Dog. I love Bernese Mountain Dogs. They're so friendly. I miss my boy Baxter. He used to just, whenever I would come home, he would sit right directly on my feet, and he just did not want to leave my side. Beautiful boy. Beautiful boy. All right, next coming in from X149TE, we got a couple questions here. So the first one, what is your first bullet heaven game? Well, I had to go back and actually figure this out because I wasn't actually sure where my bullet heaven history started. Basically what I can come up with, because I don't think I played any bullet heavens off this channel. A lot of the roguelikes and roguelites that I have played mostly come from actually doing this channel. I believe the first one that I ever played was a game called Terra Lycia, which I think we played slightly more recently, though it was the first bullet heaven on the channel that I could find. It was a 3D bullet heaven, and then after that was oh, what's it called? I'm kind of scrolling through here. Hell Survivors. I remember because when that came out, I did not have a lot of experience with Bullet Heavens, and people were roasting me in the comment section for not picking up all the experience and then complaining that I wasn't powerful enough. To be fair, I don't think the game was in a great state when that demo came out. I still hold to that, although my play was not great in that one. But and I think the first couple that I kind of like stuck with and that I thought were really good were Strive. Is it Striving or Strive? Strive for Light and Nordic Ashes. I think those were like the first two that I did like a multi-part series on, and that's kind of when I started getting into them. I did a couple other. Jotun Slayer was another one that was pretty early on. Graveyard Gunslingers, Deathless. Oh god, Deathless. What else do we have here? What else did I start? Oh, Nimrods was pretty early on. Yeah, so a lot of these, it's one of those things where, like, I don't remember there being one specific. I think honestly the big one that got me like into starting doing it as more or less a focus on the channel was Rogue Genesia. I think mainly because that was kind of the first-ish time that my videos really started popping off every once in a while. The first Rogue Genesia video, you know, I did was like 3 times the views as compared to what I was kind of used to getting, except for Lucky Hunter. Lucky Hunter was a weird one that popped off. But yeah, so I did a few on Rogue Genesia, and that I think is kind of what me got more heavily into the bullet heaven genre. But before that, I don't really think, you know, before Terra Elysia, I don't think I really had any other bullet heaven experience. Which kind of leads me into the next question, which is, what is your first roguelike / light game? Well, the first one on the channel was Wander Stars. That was kind of my first foray into roguelikes and roguelites. Although for my actual first one, I have a feeling the one that comes to mind is Binding of Isaac. I do remember playing a little bit of Binding of Isaac because I think when I'm trying to think of what, I don't remember what year it came out, but I feel like it was around the time I was still in school, but that seems like a long time ago because I graduated in high school in 2012. I don't know if Binding of Isaac was out before then, but because I remember playing it specifically at my friend's house. But I might be having like a false memory. Anyway, I didn't play for very long because back then, the idea of a roguelike where I constantly had to keep redoing the game just did not sit well with me. I didn't like it. To be fair, I think I would have been okay with roguelites, but it was the roguelike aspect where I was literally just like, okay, we're doing the same thing. It's kind of the same reason why I'm not a big fan of battle royales. You know, I of course tried playing like Fortnite. I tried Fortnite just stylistically was not for me, and it was way too it was just way too zoomer. It was so fast. I couldn't keep up with the building. But I also tried COD Warzone. And it wasn't really for me. I didn't like literally starting over from scratch every single time. I like having some kind of progression. So I also feel like I played a very little bit of Dead Cells, but again, back then it was a little bit too difficult. I was also playing on a small laptop. Couldn't really see very well. Dead Cells I don't think is set up very well for mouse and keyboard anyway, and I wasn't even on a mouse, to be fair. I was on a trackpad. So those are kind of the first that I remember playing. And then, of course, you know, we started the channel, and I think later on I have a question about starting the channel, so I'm going to hold off on that until then. Did you try Bullet Heaven-like games that were made before the Vampire Survivor, like Boom? For example, Crimson Land, Dracula Undead Awakening. I definitely have not tried any older Bullet Heavens. Vampire Survivors is still the one that I need to go back and play, and we're going to do it at some point on this channel. I've mentioned it in a couple different videos that I want to go back. The two big ones that I really want to play through are Vampire Survivors and Death Must Die. I've put in a lot of I put in about 20 hours of Death Must Die, but that is one of those that, like, I've recorded a series of like 4 or 5 videos twice now, and every time just something comes up and it just never makes its way into my schedule. I think one of the times it was during Steam Next Fest, and I was already putting out like 3 or 4 videos a day, and I just like couldn't put out another one. I don't remember the other time, but I think there was just like too much of a gap, and I don't know. I think I had like improved playing the game or something, and I was like, I don't, the quality isn't really like what I want it to be, so I kind of scrapped them again. And at this point, it's one of those things where I think it's another question later talking about being a completionist, but I have like this weird fixation where I feel like if I start, it's gonna bug me if I start making videos of a game where I'm like already partially through it. For me, I feel like I need to start at the beginning. Maybe I'm thinking too much about that, but from my perspective, I would think, I don't know, like I feel like it makes sense to have like an entire run on the channel versus starting like 25% of the way in. Again, maybe I'm thinking too much into it, but that's just kind of like what's eating at me. Well, likely those games, I feel like I will likely end up streaming. Maybe, don't hold me to it. I gotta get back and start streaming again, but I changed up my whole setup, ended up taking down my camera, and I just like haven't gotten back to behind my desk. It's a whole long story there, not important for here. So ultimately, no, Vampire Survivors is really like the big one that I still need to try. Most of the bullet heavens I've played have come after that. More so are kind of like recent additions to the genre. Western RPG or JRPG? This is one I feel very strongly about, and the correct answer is JRPG. No questions asked. To be fair, let's do a little bit of nuance here, because that's not always the answer. Time matters, and I'm not going to get too much into it because this is not necessarily the place for this. It's supposed to be a fun video. Depending on when the Western RPGs are from, in terms of year, I could be swayed to say Western. But, there are certain trends in the gaming sphere as of recently that have made me less so inclined to play Western RPGs. And I tend to not find those things in JRPGs, and the overall quality of JRPGs just tends to be better, in my opinion. JRPGs also tend to just speak to me a bit more in terms of story, just as how, a lot of people, I think you could say, prefer anime to just Western television shows in general, because the stories just kind of hit a little bit, a little bit better. But in general, when it comes to RPGs, I do like turn-based RPGs. So that tends to line up with JRPGs really well. Octopath Traveler was fantastic. I never got around to playing Octopath Traveler 2, but I put in a lot of time into Octopath Traveler 1. One of my favorite games of all time, Chain Echoes, fantastic. Love that game. That was one of the best turn-based systems I remember playing. Once it locked in, I was like, this is just so much fun. I love switching between characters, and all the different puzzles on the maps that you could solve, just fantastic. And the music, there was a track in the beginning of the game, I don't remember what it's called, but if you look up the entire OST on YouTube, it's the song that's like 3 or 5 minutes in. It's like the intro battle theme, I think. Phenomenal. So good. I have problems remembering names, but so yeah, in general, I would say, even regardless of like what I was saying before with year release, I would say 9 times out of 10, if you gave me just a blank slate and said, hey, this week we're going to play either Western RPG or JRPG, I'm still taking JRPG. I also tend to like the like art style of JRPGs even a little bit more, even if you take away like the 2D and pixel art and just go 3D, I tend to just like it better. So that is just a preference. And then lastly, did you walk behind the house in Hollow House as Ina? No, I did not. I guess you have to do that specifically as Xena, huh? Well, I guess we'll have to try that out. Did you buy the pet in the Holo Casino? I haven't even walked inside the Holo Casino yet. I gotta do that. Yeah, I haven't really played around in the Holo House a lot just because there's, you know, I don't really have a lot of like free time to do all this kind of like extra stuff. I don't get me wrong, I love playing Holocure, love the game, but the more cozy game side of the overall game is not where I prefer to put my time. Especially now I have like a side project that I'm working on that whether it amounts to anything, I have no idea. But that's taking up quite a bit of my time, and if it does, it could take several years. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Other than that, you know, I'm playing a bunch of different games. I'm trying to find different games for you guys. On top of that, you know, work and all that, and then just like having free time. It's just one of those things where I haven't spent a lot of my time. Next question up from Jason the Fourth. My question is, what plans do you have, if any, once you tried out all the characters in Holocure? Are you just going to wait till the next update to continue playing it with the new ones? Or are you going to do some special runs and episodes similar to the Holo House ideas? Good question. What are my plans? Well, this is going to take a little while to get there, honestly, because I think we're only, let's see, where are we at? Are we at the 20 video mark yet? I don't think we are. I think we might be just shy of 20. But if I remember correctly, there's like 40 and change characters, or is there 50 yet? Either way, we're only about halfway there, so we still got a ways to go, especially with the rate of releasing, you know, 3 Holocure videos a week. At this point, it tends to be like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday thing in the mornings. So that'd be what, another 6-7 weeks of Holocure. So there's still a bunch of stuff there. From what I understand and what I've been reading, especially around like on Reddit and such, updates are pretty slow coming. So I don't really keep up. I mean, I don't really know a lot about the Holocure girls. From what I understand, the updates come pretty slowly, so we're even a couple groupings behind. But the last update, I believe, came out fairly recently. I don't mean within the last couple weeks. I'm assuming it was within the past, I don't know, 3-4 months, maybe? I don't know. So chances are, it might still be a little while before the next update. But what are my plans? We'll probably take a break because as a little bit of like how the sausage gets made, what I've kind of been doing on this channel more recently, because I've been trying to figure out where I want to put like mini-series. So I put out 2 videos a day. I tried 3 for a while. That was just way too much. So at this point, my schedule is mostly, obviously they can change, but mostly it's 9 a.m., 3 p.m., both Eastern times. The 9 a.m. slot is typically going to be like a repeating slot as long as I have some kind of mini-series. So like right now, that's where you'll always find Holocure coming out, typically Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 a.m. And then whatever the other game is. So for a while, it was Army of Ruin was swapping off every day. So you'd have like Monday Holocure, Tuesday Army of Ruin, Wednesday Holocure, Thursday Army of Ruin. And then you switch back and forth. Right now, I don't really have another kind of game to do a mini-series with. Where was I going with this? My whole train of thought just like completely derailed this sentence. My point was, there will likely be, you know, some other games in the future that I kind of want to take that slot, and Holocure will probably take a break with it for a while. You know, it's probably going to be one of those games. I'm going to try and reintroduce some games that we've kind of done series in the past and they kind of have fallen off, but we'll do them every once in a while, right? So like God of Weapons is one of these that I kind of want to do some runs in. Soulstone Survivors is another one. What else do we have? What else is on my list? Oh, you know what? Yet Another Zombie Survivors is one we haven't checked out in a while. I should probably see if there's been an update on that one. Yet Another Zombie Survivors, actually going back to the previous question of what was your first, that might have been the first one that I did like a fairly in-depth series on. We did a lot of videos on yet another Zombie Survivors. But, you know, just kind of going back to some of the old faithfuls every once in a while, you know. I got to get myself out of the funk of being like, oh, this is a big game with a lot of content, so we got to do like 10 videos in a row. It's like, no, we can jump back in, do one video, and come back another time. So Holocure will probably become something like that, until there's something else to grind. Like, at this point, so we've completed Stage 5. I still need to get to Stage 4 hard, which, from what I've heard, is harder than Stage 5. But once you do it once, I mean, you can keep doing it, but once all the characters are done, there's something else that'll add to it. There's another question. I don't want to get ahead of myself here. That is kind of related to this. But there's not going to be, for me, there's not going to be a lot else to do besides just, like, redoing builds. Because it's not like, it's a little bit different, I think, than, like, Army of Ruin, for example, where there's 100 different, like, items, and 100 different, or close to 100 different weapons. So it's not like there's a million different builds. You're pretty limited on what items you have available, especially in Holocure, where some of the items are pretty much the same. So that is my long-winded way of saying we will likely take a break once I get through all the characters, and then we'll return after a certain amount of time. Let's see. Next question here, or series of questions. We've got 5 different questions. Cat on a Cell. What led you to starting a bulletheaven YouTube channel? And do you have any other YouTube channels on any other topics? Yeah. Okay, so let's answer both of those together. Do I have any other YouTube channels? Technically, no. I mean, I do have another YouTube channel, but it's not running. It was for when I was doing wedding videography as a side hustle. It literally, I think it has like 2 videos on it. I don't even know if I have access to it anymore, to be completely honest, but technically speaking, yes, I do. But I'm not. Am I actively publishing to other YouTube channels? No, I am not. What led you to starting a bulletheaven YouTube channel? To be a little more specific, I didn't plan on starting a bulletheaven YouTube channel. I initially got back onto this channel just as like a way to kind of keep myself busy, to be completely honest. So let's backtrack even further. So 8 months ago is when I posted my first video again onto this channel. For those guys who don't know, I actually started this channel back during the dark times, back when we were all in quarantine. We were down with the sickness, as it were. I think it was around 2021, I think is when I started, maybe 22. Well, I'm looking at my videos right now, actually. Does it say 4 years ago? It says 4. Okay, so likely 2021. I was in my house, stuck in my house, bored, as we all were. And funny enough, you know who I was watching a lot back then? I was actually watching Tectone a lot. And this is before he was big. This is back when he had, I don't know, like 15, 20,000 subscribers. I think he was playing a lot of Arc Knights, and I got like really hooked on Arc Knights. And I was like, you know what? I have a little bit of, well, I had experience with a camera. I literally, you know, work with cameras as a job. I had some cameras because I was doing wedding videography. I was like, you know what? I need something to kind of, you know, fill my time. So let's go ahead and try and start a YouTube channel, and that could be fun. So I started my channel playing Arc Knights, doing more coverage, you know, covering different characters that were coming out, different pulls, different teams, all that kind of stuff. All these videos, by the way, are still up on my channel. You can still go and view all these. Warning, they're awful. I don't claim to be like a god of content now, but back then, oh boy, it was rough. Hadn't figured things out quite yet. Didn't have a really good microphone or anything like that. So yeah, started with Arc Knights, and then once Genshin Impact came out, that had a lot of popularity, had a lot of hype behind it, so I swapped into Genshin Impact, doing mostly, pretty much always guides. I was doing a lot of live streaming, and after, I think it was probably like 4 or 5 months, the game just, I really fell off hard. The updates that were coming out, so it was only my second gacha game that I had played behind Arc Knights, And I went into Genshin Impact thinking that the game was going to be significantly different than it ended up being. To me, I thought there was going to be an actual game behind it, and what it ended up feeling was just like a slot machine simulator, which, let's be fair, gacha games mostly are. But once I wouldn't say a whale, you know, I more so consider myself a dolphin. I did spend a lot, but like I wasn't spending like tens of thousands of dollars like some insane whales. What ended up making me quit the game was I ended up spending like $1,200 a night to get like I don't know, it was like 3 ascensions or whatever the term was of Ganyu. And that's when I was like, okay, we need to cut this off. It's a problem. But anyway, in terms of the game, I kind of fell off the game because every day it was doing the same thing. It was just doing, I had like an hour-long run around the map collecting resources to power up my units. And then there was no real hard content because I had kind of just stomped everything because, again, I was buying a lot of currency, which allowed me to level up my characters, and I was just going through it pretty quickly. And then when the updates would come out, there was just no like challenging combat content. It was mostly just story content, which I didn't really care about. So I ended up falling off in the game. Tried a couple other things, tried to go into Final Fantasy XIV, did a couple of videos on like Monster Train, Dicey Dungeons. I guess Dicey Dungeons was a pretty early... Oh, Slay the Spire. How did I forget Slay the Spire? Talking about that earlier. Holy crap, I played so much Slay the Spire. I probably have like 400 or 500 hours into Slay the Spire. Yeah, I can't believe I forgot Slay the Spire. And so, you know, it was discouraging going from, you know, pumping out guides and getting views in the, you know, 20K range every once in a while. You know, I have a guy that has like 75,000. I had a guy that had like, where is it now? It's at 359,000 views. That's my Razor video that I put out. So like I had some really good video, or I wouldn't say I mean, I'm not going to toot my own horn. The videos were kind of fine. It was kind of just regurgitating, you know, info you could find on a wiki, but, for what they were, you know, they were getting good views. And then all of a sudden, you know, I stopped playing the game and I'm getting less than 1,000 views. And I would be lying if I said that it didn't, you know, hurt my psyche a little bit. So then I swapped into trying doing more like gaming news, covering like new updates on Ashes of Creation and just different games. And it wasn't the same. And so I ended up just stopping content creation altogether, which finally leads us back into about 8 months ago. I was getting bored again. You know, I didn't have a lot going on after work and I was looking for something new to do. And at the time, the previous couple months, I'd been spending a lot more time playing games again because I'd kind of taken a break for a while. I'd played through Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I played through Chained Echoes. And I was like, okay, well, you know what? Let's see what we can do. And honestly, the first thing that I thought I was going to do, I actually thought the channel was going to be a more JRPG focused channel. If you look back to 8 months ago, there's actually one video in between, right after my 3-year break. I have a review of Aiden Chronicle 100 Heroes. And that's what I was planning on doing, is like videos like that where I was reviewing JRPGs. And what I kind of realized after doing that one is like JRPGs are long experiences. So to get an actual, you know, understanding of the game, and not give like a, you know, first impressions video, I'm probably gonna have to go 30, 40, 50 hours into the game, then, you know, write up a review. The review part wasn't the problem. It was more so just the hours behind actually playing the game. And I was like, this isn't going to be necessarily sustainable. I'm not going to be able to go at the pace that I would like to go. And so that kind of fell off. And I honestly don't remember how I started with roguelikes. I think I was just like, let's just try demos. Let's just do, because initially I was going to have it like a mini series called Demo Dash, and just like reviewing a bunch of demos because, you know, I didn't really have the money to go out and buy new games all the time. And I didn't have any kind of like, you know, I didn't have any kind of viewer base. So publishers and developers weren't really going to be like sending me codes or anything. So, you know, I went with what I could, and I went with demos. And I think with that, I kind of just fell into roguelikes and roguelites. and ultimately, eventually, you know, started playing more Bullet Heavens along the way, and they just kind of picked up, you know, like I said, with Rogue Genesia, that's the one that kind of first gave me the idea that Bullet Heavens were like extremely popular. They were kind of popping off in ways that a lot of my other videos just didn't. And so it just kind of became more of a staple on the channel, started doing like Twilight Survivors, and just overall just kind of like, I don't know, melded into it. We did yet another Zombie Survivors, you know, that started popping off. And so that's kind of just how we started falling into it. And then over time, just doing more and more on the channel. And now I would say, speaking like strictly now, I would say we're probably about 80% Bullet Heavens. And then, you know, we're doing a bunch of other content. I do want to dial it back a little bit. I don't want to be locked into being a strictly Bullet Heaven channel. I think that will probably still be a heavy focus, but I do want to get back to trying, you know, other games, other roguelites. More specifically, you know, I'd still like to be mostly a roguelite channel, but there's still other stuff, right? I've been trying to get outside of my box a little bit. We've tried AI Limit, which was the other Souls-like game that I was mentioning in the first Berserker Kazan video. That one was great. So like, I'd like to play more of that. So there's definitely other games in the genre that I want to keep up with, and not necessarily pigeonhole myself into Bullet Heavens, but that is definitely what we're doing of mostly just because, you know, I think for people who are viewing the channel, it's easy, you know, knowing that if I'm putting out a video, then it's likely to be up their alley, because if you're already interested in Bullet Heavens, well, you might as well check out more Bullet Heavens. So, yeah, that was a very long-winded answer for what led you to starting a Bullet Heaven YouTube channel. But there you go. There's kind of the long answer long. What other topics would you like to cover, if any? So that kind of also lends into what I was just talking about. JRPGs in general, or like strategy RPGs, like Fire Emblem is one of my favorite series that I haven't played a lot of. I don't know what it is about Fire Emblem, but it is stuck in my head, and it lives in my head rent-free. It's got just like the art of characters. I just, for some reason, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because it's like the more adult version of Pokemon, in a sense, where, because I played Pokemon as a kid, like religiously, right? I started when I was very young, maybe 4 or 5, right? I started with Pokemon Blue, and I just always played Pokemon as a kid. So the idea of evolution to me is a really just like, it's like dopamine fueled, right? So as a kid, you like evolving your little cute creatures into bigger, tougher creatures, but now, you know, the designs don't really speak to me that much. They're more cutesy than they used to be. Actually, there's a whole video that I just watched on it that technically that's not true, but I won't go into that now. So Fire Emblem is totally different, where you have, like, you know, these anime characters that evolve in from like just, you know, oh, I'm a soldier with a sword, and then it's like, oh, I'm a badass armored knight sitting on a horse, and it's like, that's just cool. So, you know, Unicorn Overlord is another one that I didn't expect to hit me the way it did. That was another one that I was playing in the spring before starting my channel up again, and I loved that game to death. Games like that would be super cool. Probably wouldn't do them in a video setting, though. They would probably be something that we would do on a live stream, which is definitely something, you know, that I'm also thinking about, is like maybe doing, just having the videos being specifically roguelite, and then allowing, you know, our live streams to do a little bit more of like the long format stuff, getting into more either story driven games, Souls-likes, you know, strategy RPGs, because my favorite game of all time is well, it's actually CRPG, but I believe we'll get into that later as well. Anyway, favorite game that never hit YouTube. I guess that technically, we'll see if this one gets answered later as well. But my favorite game of all time is Baldur's Gate 3. Not close. I've done like 5 or 6 runs that game. It's so good. Baldur's Gate 3 was so good. Yeah, just the strategy aspect. Again, it kind of leans into that whole like Fire Emblem style combat. It was great. Literally, it was the first game I think that I've gone and just repeat, I guess besides Pokemon, because Pokemon I repeated a bunch, but besides that, it was the first game that I remember really, as soon as I finished, I was like, all right, new run. I think I waited a day because it was like, I felt very heavy-hearted after all my characters like said goodbye and it was the end. Especially on my first run through, Karlach is the best. By the way, don't fight me on that, or fight me on that if you want, but Karlach is the best waifu. So yeah, I had a romance with Karlach, and we went into hell, and we were fighting the demons, because unfortunately I couldn't save her. So we went into hell together. But yeah, that I played that before I had a channel, so I don't think this is, you know, quite, I guess the fair answer to this in reference to my channel would be Death Must Die. I love Death Must Die. It's probably my favorite Bulletheaven. But my favorite game that will never hit YouTube, yeah, Baldur's Gate 3. How do you think your day job impacts your game preferences? I don't think it does. So my day job, I've mentioned it before, I'm a commercial producer. I'm mostly behind the camera. I edit, I shoot commercials for a local TV station. It doesn't really impact my game preferences. Honestly, for a little while, I guess it kind of did, because again, back in the spring, I was playing, oh Jesus, what's the game called? Hang with me here as I look this up. It was an anime game where you fought kind of Monster Hunter style. What is this game? Hold up. Was that it? Nope, that's not it. It was before, was it before Aiden Chronicle? Yes, it had to be not then. Oh God, it's gonna bug me that I can't. Oh, Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. That's what it was. Because I figured out that you could just set missions, you could set your character on auto, I would leave my PC running, and at work, I would bring my laptop to work. Or actually, I didn't even have to bring my laptop to work. On my work computer, I would remote into my home PC and monitor it, because you could only run 10 missions in a row on repeat. And so after those 10 were done, I would run them again just to get a bunch of resources and power up my characters. And there were a couple games that I did that with, where I would just like leave them running and I would monitor them on my work computer. But in general, my day job does not impact my gaming preferences. I just play after work. Next up, Fixing Moon. Let's see. I know your channel is centered around Bulletheaven type games. Would you ever consider playing some of the Hololive fan games for one-off videos? They all just have as much love put into them as Holocure does, and they are all free. Definitely. I haven't looked into a lot of them. I know there's like a beat 'em up style game. I don't really remember what it's called. I've seen a couple of them. I haven't looked into them really significantly, but yeah, I don't see why not. Yeah, if they seem up my alley. It's one of those things where, like, I don't consider myself a Hololive. I do consider myself a Holocure fan. I don't really consider myself a Hololive fan. Not to say that I don't like any of the creators. That's not it at all. I tend to just not really watch the Hololive creators. I just have other content creators I watch. So it's not like I'm necessarily drawn to the IP of Hololive. So if the games are good, sure, but it's not like I'm like, oh my god, I'm diehard Hololive, I gotta play everything that's Hololive. I just think Holocure honestly is, if you took out the Hololive, like all the girls, and put in just like ambiguous fantasy character 1 through 50, whatever, I think the game would still be great. Obviously, it would lose a little bit of its charm just because the skills are tied to the girls themselves and like their lore. But again, for me, where I don't have a lot of background knowledge on that lore until after the fact, and I read all your comments, sure, it can lead me to kind of guess what the characters, what the girls are like. But the actual lore, it's not like I see that I'm like, oh, I know what that's from. It's kind of like Easter eggs in a movie where you know, like my dad, if we go to see like, you know, a Marvel movie, you know, he'll understand that like, oh, this character that just popped up, okay, they're important. But I might be like, oh no, you don't like, I'm not big into Marvel, but I'll sometimes watch like the videos beforehand that are like, this is why you need to know this character. And so it's like, oh, well, like Thanos is a great example. You know, my dad he knew of Thanos because we played Marvel Superheroes as a kid, which was a like Street Fighter style game on the PlayStation 1. And Thanos was like, it was like a secret boss, I think. I know you couldn't play him, but you could fight against him. So he recognized like the big purple dude from Marvel, but he didn't know like the background of Thanos at all. So like he saw Thanos' story and he was like, oh, that's cool. And then so after we saw Infinity War, I was like, oh, well, this is actually what the Thanos story is in the comics, and this is how they changed it. So he still understood what was going on. Not that you need to know Thanos' original story, but just like, it was kind of one of those things where I had a multi-layer experience with Infinity War, where he just had like the surface level, oh, this is a great movie. So that's kind of like how it is with Hololive stuff. Next up, we got Pricklepuss. My question would be, favorite places you've visited or would like to visit? And then what are some nostalgic media? Oh boy, let's see if I can think about that. As far as places I've visited, I haven't really gone a lot of places, to be honest. So I live in New England, more specifically Maine. I don't mind giving that info away. I've been to I've been to most states in New England. You know, I've been to like New York City once or twice. I've been to Providence, Rhode Island, a bunch with friends back when we were playing Magic the Gathering. There's a convention center there that always hosted, it hosted a couple Grand Prix and it hosted a couple Star City Games events that we went to. Unfortunately, we stopped playing Magic, so we don't really go anymore. And then other than that, I've been to Florida a couple times with my family to go to Disney World. So I guess technically I would probably have to say Disney World, because that's really the only place that I've gone. As far as where I'd like to go, I think it's probably pretty clear that I would like to visit Japan. I think that's kind of like the stereotypical answer for people with my interests. There are definitely places a lot of general places in Europe that I would like to travel. Switzerland would be really, those mountains in Switzerland look beautiful. I've seen so many, of course they're going to be like touristy images, but just of like these small villages that are just like surrounded in these giant, like snow-capped with like all these like green trees, mountains, looks gorgeous, like crystal blue water. I would love to try that out. I would love to do anywhere where they have really great cuisine. And I'm not talking like, oh, come here to my French restaurant, we sell hot dogs. You know, like the tourists, like not to call out the French or anything. I am French, but you know, it's like I don't want to go to the touristy restaurants. I want to just see like what a more traditional cuisine is like, you know, kind of like how, so I've watched so Craig Adams, he has a YouTube channel. He used to host on Wedding Film School because he was a wedding videographer. Now I think he just does content on his own, named Craig Adams channel. But he does these like hour long like hiking videos where it's just him and a camera, not a lot of talking, and just kind of like documentary style of his experience through there. And he'll just like, you know, he'll go in, and obviously a lot of it is on a mountain, so it's a lot of like these kind of like checkpoint. I don't want to call them a shack. That's not really the correct term, but you know, it's just people who can get food to them when they can. And it's not like it's anything fancy, but it's just like what the people have. And so that would kind of be cool to experience, just to see like what other people are doing in their culture. Cause you know, I've been locked into the US my whole life. And so I'd like to just experience anywhere else, to be completely honest. Nostalgia media, that's going to be really hard to pull off the top of my head, so I apologize here. We talked a little bit about in another video, those like those choose your own adventure books. It's tough because I don't think I can really think of anything directly off the top of my head. It's one of those things that just something will spark a memory and it's like, oh my god, I remember that. You know, talking about like different kids WB shows. Like the one that just popped in my head, I can't tell you, is it Q-Blocks? There was a big robot made of a ton of different cubes that I watched a little bit. I would see commercials for it all the time. You know, there's a bunch of stuff. I remember watching like this weird, the Lord of the Rings movie that had like the weird rotoscoped 3D animation that had the freakiest looking Balrog that had like a head of a lion. That was super weird. The Rankin Baskin Hobbit animated movie. That was a great one that I watched. The Goblin King scared the crap out of me when he tried to bite off Thorin's head. Oh my god, what else? Like Power Rangers. Oh, like once a year I'll go on a Power Rangers binge on YouTube and just like either watch the old theme songs, or I don't know, just different videos of like comparing like who are the best, you know, Rangers, or how many Power Rangers actually died, because I stopped watching before Power Ranger deaths actually became a thing. I stopped watching, oh, when was it? So I watched Mighty Morphin, I watched I actually never watched Turbo. I never watched the show. I watched the movie all the time. I had the Turbo movie, I had the regular Power Rangers movie, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie. But for some reason I don't remember ever seeing Turbo on TV. Watched a lot of Space, and then I never watched Zeo either, which is why I was very confused at the start of the Turbo movie. I was like, what are these costumes? What was after Space? Was that not Wild Force? Was it Power Rangers Galaxy? Was that after Space? I don't know. It was somewhere around there that I stopped, but I can never remember. Power Rangers is kind of one of those nostalgic things for me. Movies, books. Oh, Magic Treehouse. I read a lot of Magic Treehouse as a kid. Games, anything on the Sega Genesis. There was like this weird like Arabian Nights game that I can't think of what the name is. Maybe not Arabian Nights, but I remember you went from a forest to like an Arabian village. I don't know. I have a lot of like flashes of stuff and not a lot of specifics, unfortunately. I watched someone who's been doing no-death runs of the OG Star Wars Battlefront games, lately one of the Lord of the Rings games, and it's really interesting how popular these games are still and how many enjoyed them back in the day. Oh yeah, just continuing on. Oh, there was this really bad Lord of the Rings game. It was the first like virtual reality game. You had Sting, right? And then you had like a camera thing that you would set on the top of your TV. It had the One Ring on it, and then it would kind of motion track the sword, and you were just like on a track. Right, it was just an on-rail shooter, and you'd have like a bat come up and you have to block with the sword or slash. It was awful. I looked it up on YouTube. You can still find videos of it, but it was just such a bad game. All right, and so now we have the last series of questions here from TF, now with extra characters. You're progressing through... Oh, we already answered that one. Regarding collabs, super collabs, would you prefer if comments hint at them or tell you outright, or would you rather explore and discover them yourself? I mean, honestly, at this point, we've kind of discovered everything. And to be honest, I've kind of cheated a little bit along the way. I did have a visual graphic for some of the videos. I don't remember the graphic at all because my memory's so bad, so I can kind of like I kind of have a memory wipe on myself. But yeah, there was just like, it was one of those things where a lot of people were getting on me like, oh, you should have done this collab. You should have. It's like, I don't know. I don't know what the collabs are. So I started pulling up a guide to kind of plan my way through it a little bit. But no, at this point, you know, revealing collabs or super collabs don't really matter. And to be honest, it's one of those things where even if you do drop it in the comments, I'll acknowledge it and like be like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. And then by the time I'm recording the next one, probably forget. Just my memory is so bad. Are there any items, weapons, stamps, etc. that particularly stand out to you in terms of concept? Any one of them that you pretty much see and go, nope. Anyone that I see and go, nope, or stand out to you in terms of concept? I'm assuming you mean by design. Let me see. Let's pull up a list here. Jamie, pull that up. I don't have a Jamie. Okay, so Holocure, let's go to, well, by the way, I'm looking up a list right now, so I'm gonna, again, like what we just talked about, I'm looking those up. I think Limiter is one that I typically don't go for unless it's synergized with something. Just like pickup range isn't going to increase my battle power at all, so I don't really care. The other one that I took a lot actually at the beginning, now I'd take never, is credit card. I just don't think it's all that great for me personally. Full meal is another one I tend to not take. It's gonna be easier to say which ones I don't take, and then I'll kind of go through and see what's more a unique build. Stolen piggy bank, I literally never take. Don't like it. What else do we have? Hope soda, I think, is one that I usually pass up on because I typically like my specials. Blacksmith's gear, never take that one. Focus shades, I sometimes take. That's not like a never take. It's just one that's kind of, I don't know. It's good. But when you're doing so much damage that you kill things quickly, it's weird because like the 500% damage over 5 seconds, like it's good, but I feel like you never really get full value out of it. Although it does help kill things faster. You're just, you know, it's gonna kill things faster, but you're never gonna get the full damage out of it. But yeah, it is what it is. What about collabs? I feel like collabs are gonna be bigger for what do I think is more unique? Because are any of these unique? Honestly, I really like Plushie. Plushie is probably the one that I go to most now. And I would say it's probably the most unique of all these. Of all the, I'm saying these like you guys are looking at it with me, but of all the items in the game, I think Plushie is probably my favorite one. Kind of just does everything that I want it to. As far as collabs, I really like the Holy Fire collab. That one's really strong. The stakes I'm a little bit less, and it's actually the Jingi Sukan, which I have no idea if that's being pronounced right. While it's powerful, I think I'm less high up on it than Holy Fire. I really like Holy Fire. That's just really strong. Collabs in general, I tend to go like elite cooking is pretty powerful. Is there anything else that I really like? I don't know. It's a lot of the stuff. I just like things that do big damage. Big damage. I like big damage. Are there any items, weapons, stamps? Oh, I guess I kind of skipped a line. Any items, weapons, or stamps that particularly? Oh no, that was a certain. I'm sorry. Will you ever try the Rock Hard stamp? Okay, and Promise Tiara. Both were introduced in the latest version. Well, the Promise Tiara is the one that gives crit rate, right? I'm not a big fan of that one. I tried it. I took it a lot when I was first starting with the game, and didn't have a lot of the items unlocked, but it's kind of fallen off for me, and I don't really play it. Rock Hard stamp. Can I look that up here on the thingy? Stamps. Yeah. What is the Rock Hard stamp? Rock Hard. I'm Rock Hard, baby. God, don't judge me on that. That's I forgot his name, but he was a Path of Exile creator. I don't even see Rock Hard on here. What the frick is a Rock Hard? Maybe it's not in the wiki yet. But I don't know. I don't even recognize the name, and I feel like I would recognize something that's Rock Hard. But anyway. And finally, go-to snack meal when you're lazy or need a pick-me-up. Oh god, we could talk about food forever. All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty here, because this is a great final question. So, go-to meal. Depends on if I'm in a cooking mood or not. If I'm not, so obviously if I'm not in a cooking mood, I'm going to order out. I'm kind of limited to what's around here, around me. In general, my go-tos are going to be some kind of Asian cuisine. Now, to be fair, it's all going to be like Americanized Asian food, right? I've gotten less enthused about getting like Chinese food just because it tends to make me pretty sleepy. Sushi is literally always a go-to. I will never turn down sushi. Sushi is one of my favorite things. And no, I'm not getting like this vegetables wrapped in rice. Okay, it bugs the crap out of me. This is one of my pet peeves. It bugs the crap out of me. I don't know why. When people are like, oh my god, I love sushi, and then you go to a sushi restaurant and they're like, yeah, so I'll take the cucumber and carrot wrapped in rice. And I'm like, ugh, technically, yes, because sushi is the name for the rice, but that's not like, because it's a sushi roll is the whole thing, right? Sushi, I think, literally translates to rice, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not like because sashimi is the fish, but there's a whole thing there. But technically, yes, it is sushi, but it's like not a sushi roll. That's just vegetables and rice. You're eating two sides of a steak dinner. Like, so that always, I don't know why, but that bugs me. You know, especially, it's one thing if you're like not a sushi lover and you're just going to a sushi place with people who do like sushi and you order it, fine. But if you're like, oh yeah, I love sushi, and then you order and that's what they get, and it's like, no, you don't. You don't like sushi. Like, I'll try weird stuff. I don't care. I am not a picky eater at all. I actually got my friends into sushi. We were going to a Magic tournament in Massachusetts. And we were trying to find a restaurant to eat before going to the hotel. And I had suggested sushi because we had kind of been talking about it on the way down. And they were both kind of hesitant about it, but they agreed. They were like, you know what? I would like to try it. So we found a little sushi shop, kind of a hole in the wall, bottom of a giant building, kind of in the basement. Nice place. You know, don't take the basement part too poorly. And they were just trying, they tried like California's rolls first, you know, but then I got them into like the spicy tuna, and they were starting to feel a little adventurous. So they were like, you know, just order something on the menu. We'll try it. Well, I got sesame octopus, and it was literally probably about half the size of a smartphone, roughly, right? And they had been like soaking in sesame oil. And it was the whole, if you Google octopus, it was the whole thing. Head, tentacles, everything was all attached. It's not like calamari where you get like tentacle here and there. Nope, full body. And they tried it. I was very proud of them. Honestly, it was not that good. Because if you've tasted sesame oil, like one drop will do it. And this thing was just soaked in it. So it was just a rubber band soaked. No, it wasn't a rubber band. People, if it's cooked poorly, it will feel like a rubber band, but it was actually very well cooked. It was just 100% sesame oil, which was no good. But like, I love eel, like eel rolls are a really good one. In general, I just like raw fish. I don't really like cooked fish. I'll eat raw fish all day. So sushi's a good one. And an extension of that, poke bowls. I've mentioned those on the channel a couple times. We have a poke place near us that I typically go to. I'll get a spicy tuna bowl. That's so spicy tuna, rice, seaweed salad, crab salad, cucumbers, edamame, delicious, and some sweet onions on there as well, and green onions. Absolutely delicious. Recently, I've been going to Chipotle a lot just because they're pretty cheap around me. Snacks, oh man, I'm a big snacker, and that's a problem. So nowadays, I don't really keep snacks in the house. Oh, but I'm a chip guy. I'll go to chips. Anything that you could classify as a chip, right? So like pretzels, Cheez-Its, anything that's salty and crunchy, I could just eat bags of. Barbecue twisted Fritos, oh my god, I will die if you put multiple bags in front of me. Like, I'll go ham on a bag of M&Ms. It's a problem. I'm a bigger guy, you know, it's clear, you know, I didn't get this way because I don't like eating, right? What else? One of like my most, so I'll end it on this. One of my favorite meals that my mom will make, she makes a fantastic roast chicken dinner. So we'll make a roast chicken, we'll do some mashed potatoes, peas on the side. My mom makes some homemade gravy. My dad makes some homemade bread in our bread maker. It's delicious. It's kind of like a halfway to turkey to Thanksgiving meal. We don't do any of like the, you know, stuffing or anything. It's just kind of those three dishes, but that has always been like the go-to whenever my mom's like, hey, do you want to come over for like a nice meal? And it's like, roast chicken, you got me there. We're good. That's kind of like one of my go-tos. But there, you know, there's a bunch of other ones. I'm a sucker for a tuna noodle casserole. I know people are like, ew, casseroles, but tuna noodle casserole with some cheesy. Ooh, that's some good stuff. What else we got? So I could go on for food. I could do like an entire episode on food. I could talk about like salmon pie is delicious with, which if you don't know what salmon pie is, because I don't think that's a New England thing, but it's not like fish in a pot. I mean, it is, but it's cooked salmon. It's almost more of like a mashed potato consistency, which sounds gross, like mashed potato salmon pie or salmon, like salmon mashed potatoes, but trust me, it's great. Yeah, we could go on about this for hours, but we do have to end it there. Hey, look at that. I just looked over. We're at just under an hour. Yeah, thank you everyone so much for the questions. Hopefully I didn't bore you too much with all of that. I do tend to ramble a little bit, but you know, I love, obviously, who doesn't like talking about themselves? We'll have to do some more. Honestly, really, I keep telling myself this. I just got to get back into live streaming. I enjoyed it so much when I did it before. I just got to get back into it. And then, you know, we can do this stuff all the time. Because, you know, talking to myself all the time, just doing the videos, you know, don't get me wrong, I like doing it, but I like interacting with people more. So anyway, that's going to do it for this one. Thank you all so much for watching. I wonder how far I got. In case, I'm not playing and speaking at the same time, so I don't know how close we are to getting the top prism. Hopefully, you know, we made some good progress. Although I probably split it up and did some mining and then some fishing and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, that's going to do it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching. You know, thank you so much for sticking around with this Holocure series. And of course, thank you for your questions. But that's going to do it for this one. If you liked the video, if you enjoyed spending some time here with me, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to the channel for more roguelite action. I've been Ganyonz. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.